Dana Trent is back again with tips for coping with holiday grief and loss. And 'tis the season, ho, 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 right?
Yes.
A lot of people going through a painful loss of a loved one. And we were talking in the first segment about, is it okay to opt out? And you say it's okay, but I know family members will try to get you to do something. So what are some other alternatives, Dana?
That's a great question. And so there's lots of things that families can decide to do together or individuals can decide to do. They can shape in some of the rituals that they used to do and do something different. For instance, if you always went out and looked at the Christmas lights after dinner, you could change the shape of that and instead go to a service or go somewhere else. If you always cook dinner at home, maybe you want to volunteer at our local shelter to serve a meal for our community. There's lots of volunteer opportunities. And also for myself, that first Christmas that my mother died, I adopted a cat from the Wake County Animal Shelter. And that gave me something to focus my attention on and kept me busy during the holiday season. And so there's lots of different things that we can do, but I think the important part is when we opt into something new, whether it's changing the rituals that we do, maybe opting to travel somewhere or doing something for our local community, that we honor what we need and we're honest about what we need.
You know, for a lot of people, that would be change in a way in itself would be a difficult thing, is what I'm saying, because
Yes.
here you have someone in your life that's gone, and now you're really shaking it up.
Right.
Yeah, and I know family members, they're a part of the loss too. So how do you incorporate all of that? I don't want it to sound like someone's selfish for feeling that way.
No.
But if you're mom or dad and you've lost mom or dad and now you have the kids, how do you go through it together?
That's a great question. You ask for support. You ask for support from your family members. In other words, if you are the person who always hosted the family gatherings and you have children that you need to take care of, you ask for help. Hey, will my brother or sister help me cook the meal? Will you help me do shopping? Will you help me wrap gifts? And so you can keep some of those same traditions, especially if they're happening at your house, but you could say, I need a little extra help because my energy is a little low. I feel sad. And most of the time, family members are happy to help, especially if you offer something specific that you need. And the flip side of that is if you know someone who is grieving, offer something specific that you can do for them, whether it's your family member or a friend.
If you don't mind, for the folks who are watching, and maybe they are grieving, since you are the grieving guru, it seems hopeless when you're in the initial stages, doesn't it?
Yes.
But it isn't.
Right.
Could you give them some hope, maybe?
Yes.
Well, there are stages to it, and there are things you can, I assume, expect through the process. What are they?
Right. I always say that grief never goes away, it just changes shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. And to know that feelings are not facts, they are not permanent, they're temporary. And so how we are feeling this holiday season is not necessarily how we are going to feel the next month, the next year, or in 5 years. Grief does change shape, and so it's important to be attentive to those feelings. If you have access to support and counseling to take care of yourself and seek out those resources, and certainly if you're feeling a prolonged state of hopelessness, to absolutely get professional help. That's very important, and to not be ashamed about that. Everyone has significant feelings when they grieve a loss. It's a really tough time.
Oh, it very much is. And to do and go through it together as a family, if you have that family unit, is important. And it sounds like communication is very important here.
Very well said. Communication, absolutely. In the book Dessert First, Preparing for Death While Savoring Life, I talk about how you can move through grief together as a family unit. It doesn't mean that everybody's grief is the same because everyone had a different relationship with that person, but thinking about the things that you can do together, like lighting a candle in remembrance of your loved one, cooking their favorite meal, doing a ritual that they enjoyed doing, looking at photos of them, sharing a funny story about them. Those are ways in which you can grieve together while honoring everyone's separate and individual grief.
I think there's also, and I could be so wrong, I hope I am, but when someone is going through this, it almost hurts to watch them go through the grieving process. And for a lot of people, they're so uncomfortable, they avoid the
Yes.
situation. Isn't that true?
They do. They
So
do.
shake them up a little bit.
That's
Tell them to
right.
stop it. Don't do that, right?
That's right. That's right. It's so much easier and better to hear your loved one remembered than to not hear them remembered.
So keeping a tradition, even though it's painful, may be actually a healing moment for the
Yes.
family. Maybe not the individual, but the family.
Right.
And it's okay to go ahead and create something new. Any other words of wisdom for these people as we wrap up this segment? And we're going to get into what's happening with this winter weather, which is also
Oh,
another area.
yes.
It isn't just the loss of a loved one that can cause depression.
That's right.
And there's more to it than that. But for folks who are going, I hate the holidays, I can't do it. Any words?
A couple of words. So be honest about it. Seek out support. Don't isolate yourself, but find a friend who understands your feelings. Find a local grief support group through our organizations so that you can actually meet other people who are grieving with you. And I find that sharing stories with others, you think, you too? Me too? Wow, I didn't know. And there's so much comfort in knowing that we aren't alone. And if you know someone who's grieving, offer something very specific that you can do, whether it's taking them a meal, providing transportation, childcare, helping them with something specific, really goes a tremendously long way during the season.
Well, you've been a part of families' lives, 200 different families.
Yes.
As they went through this process. Was there a commonality to it? I know they were all individuals, but did they all have something in common?
You know, I have found that on the dying person side, the dying person wants to feel love and comfort and know that they will be remembered. And on the family side, I found that the healing from the grief came swifter when they did remember their loved one and spoke of their name often.
So it's okay. It's really okay. We'll be right back with the effect of winter. It's been cold lately. Stick around. It also has an effect on your grieving. So we'll be back with Dana.